Вибачте, будь ласка, за невелику затримку. Я прошу усіх сідати зручно. Шановні учасники, партнери і колеги. Сьогодні ми у 2017 році святкуємо Міжнародний день кредитних спілок. Це щорічна подія, яка святкується по всьому світі. Завтра, під час фактичного святкування, 230 мільйонів членів кредитних спілок у 109 країнах святкують це свято по всьому світі. І мені здається, це хороша нагода бути тут сьогодні. Не тільки подумати про кількість учасників, не тільки відсвяткувати, але й подивитися, як ми можемо задовольнити потреби людей сьогодні і завтра. Мені здається, це звичайно важливо. І важливо поговорити з реальними людьми, з реальними учасниками. Сьогодні ми маємо чудову нагоду почути ці історії. У нас є відеоматеріали фермерів, виробників, які є членами кредитних спілок. І участь у кредитних спілках змінила їх життя на краще. Я думаю, ми можемо подумати про можливості створення мереж учасників кредитних спілок, про що я хотіла б також поговорити сьогодні. Але перед тим, як ми перейдемо до цього, я хотіла б також поділитися власним досвідом, який є досить релевантним, як кредитна спілка може змінити життя людини. Я є членом кредитної спілки вже 10 років, і я думаю, що останнє, про що я хотіла б сказати, у мене є чудова кредитна історія. Ми знаємо, що у банківському секторі я, можливо, не отримала б цього. І я знаю, що банк не постукає мені в двері. І я знаю, що в Україні кредитні спілки 25 років вже існують кредитні спілки, які забезпечили величезний і важливий вклад до економіки України. Вони мають чудове майбутнє, як і інші фінансові установи. Вони стикаються з проблемами, вони потребують реформ, вони потребують підтримки, вони потребують допомоги. І вони потребують поліпшити свою роботу, підвищити рівень ефективності. Ось це те, чим ми займаємося. Проте є одна особливість. Громади, учасники завжди розглядають учасників кредитних спілок і ставлять їх на перше місце. Ми хотіли б забезпечити оцю важливу сутність, оцю важливу характеристику кредитних спілок, які забезпечують розвиток сільських районів і громад. Вони не тільки забезпечують доступ до фінансових ресурсів за відсутності інших кредитних послуг, вони забезпечують інші фінансові послуги, по-перше, а по-друге, відіграють важливу соціальну роль. І ми ніколи не забудемо, що для кредитних спілок люди є настільки ж важливими, як і фінансові показники. Фінансові показники є важливими, але також і учасники, також і люди. І кредитні спілки працюють з грошми місцевих громад і місцевих мешканців і повинні убезпечувати їх. Таким чином, кредитні спілки повинні забезпечувати втілення і реалізацію найкращих міжнародних практиків, посилювати ресурси, капітальні ресурси, адаптуватися до міжнародних практик, пов'язаних із забезпеченням і убезпеченням коштів. І це не є легкою справою. Мені здається, це саме те, що є метою нашого проекту. Підтримати людей, підтримати кредитні спілки, посилити зв'язки із міжнародними громадами, перш за все у Європейському Союзі, і забезпечити регулювання і нагляд за діяльністю кредитних спілок, які були б сумісними з практиками і нормативною базою на міжнародному рівні. Ми маємо представників кредитних спілок з нами, яких ми запрошуємо до співпраці, які працюють з нами і які забезпечують зростання потенціалу, поліпшення процедур нагляду, поліпшення процедур регулювання і говорити, будувати діалог з регулятором, розуміючи свою важливу роль. І наразі я бачу велику кількість людей, які підтримують нас. Ми маємо людей, які потребують більше інформації про природу кредитних спілок, про діяльність кредитних спілок в Україні. І я впевнена, що ми маємо також і скептиків. Сьогодні є чудова дискусія провести панельне обговорення, поговорити про підтримку кредитних спілок в Україні не тільки про те, чим є кредитна спілка, але й про те, чому кредитна спілка є важливою, чому кредитна спілка є важливою для фінансового сектору, якою є роль кредитної спілки у розвитку фінансового сектору, і також якою є роль кредитних спілок як каталізатора місцевого економічного розвитку у сільських районах у тому числі. Не тільки як джерело кредитів, але і як і соціальний чинник. Ми маємо партнерів, які розуміють потенціал кредитних спілок в Україні, у тому числі агровиробників, фермерів, які розуміють роль кредитних спілок. І зазначивши усе це, я вітаю вас на цьому заході. Сподіваюсь, він буде інформативним. Дякую вам за ваш час. І Стівен Резький, заступник директора Американського агентства з міжнародного розвитку, міг також би сказати кілька слів. Дуже дякую. Дуже дякую, Єва. Чудово було послухати вас.
Provide the financing, which is a critical element of the economic stabilization in rural Ukraine. And this is why USAID has made the development of credit unions one of our top priorities in our economic development assistance to Ukraine. And that's why I'm here today. That's why we have this program. And that's why we're celebrating International Credit Union Day. So USAID's four-year Credit for Agricultural Producers program, CAP as we call it, aims to basically act as a synergist or creating synergies to change the credit union sector for the better, and particularly the regulatory and legislative sphere. So working with the government of Ukraine in partnership to make it easier for credit unions to form and make it easier for credit unions to operate and offer those valuable services to rural Ukrainians more effectively and efficiently. And so as we try to strengthen the Ukrainian credit union sector's role, we also believe that by doing that, we will develop employment and income opportunities in rural communities. That you can be sure of. If it works out successfully, you will see economic growth at the rural level. I would like to take this opportunity also to thank our partners in Parliament and the National Commission for State Regulation of Financial Services Markets, both national associations of credit unions and all other Ukrainian and international partners for their tremendous commitment and joint efforts to develop and build a broad consensus over the new draft law on credit unions, which was registered in the Verkhovna Rada and is now pending adoption. So I just want to say a heartfelt thanks to all of you for making this development move forward. We're also hopeful that the new law will transform the credit union sector based on EU principles and will make the credit union stronger to provide lending, which is critically needed by businesses in rural communities. This is a crucial component of realizing the goal. So the goal is to help create the credit union enabling environment in Ukraine, and then to actually move forward and deliver the services that are necessary to be successful. So we're here today not only to celebrate International Credit Unions Day, but also to reflect on what should be done to support the sector efficiently and so how credit unions can better meet the needs of their borrowers. Therefore, we hope that today's panel discussions can establish a multi-stakeholder dialogue and take a holistic approach to the transformation of the credit union sector. And we believe that these development solutions and legal and regulatory improvements will improve the capacity of credit unions, raise efficiencies and capacity building for the agricultural producers and the cooperatives and borrowers. We're also committed to working with stakeholders to improve and develop the credit union sector for the benefit of rural economies and economic stabilization. And so with that, I thank all of you for your participation in the Congress and today's conference, your willingness to share your experiences, ideas, and views. And I hope that if you aren't already a member of a credit union, you're definitely seriously considering being one after today and maybe next week, I don't know. But again, thank you very much for your participation, your time, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And with that, I would like to ask Viktor Romaniuk, Deputy of Ukraine, to give his opening remarks. Thank you.
Доброго дня, шановне товариство. Романюк Віктор Миколайович, депутат.
Good morning, Ukrainian MP and member of Committee on Financial Issues. Based on that committee, we run a variety of discussions in order to discuss crediting issues, credit unions, support to small and medium businesses, including agricultural producers. What kind of issues we are facing today? And I mean global issues and the issues at the international level. As the French people say, when we had a great deal of activity and a great deal of development within the middle class, we are now facing the issue that less and less people want to have a private business or to run a private business, the very basis of the European civilization. And we need to find a mechanism to stimulate people, to push people to become economically independent. If you go, like I personally went to Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, and you can see the Ukrainian people being perceived as an economically successful nation. Today in Ukraine, the official statistics, I think it's 0.52% of the Ukrainian citizens are members of the credit unions. 100 years ago, the figure was 10%. 10% of the population were involved in the credit union activities. Why? Because there was no safety net, no economic safety net, and people were interested to work, have savings, etc. And that all changed when the USSR collapsed. People still lost a lot what they used to have from the state and have nothing instead. So people need to think about their economic well-being, and the USAID approach, I think, is the right thing for Ukraine. And the experience that we had 100 years ago needs to be implemented somehow today. I don't think there is any other alternative way out. I don't think there is other alternative path. Same is true for Europe, same is true for America. In America, I think they have this healthy republicanism now when Trump is the president. But the social trend that originated in Europe 70 years ago is still there. So we will be observing what's going on there, and I think we are going to face the very same issue: less independent businesses and more people dependent on the government. And I've been there in the parliament for 3 years, and we run about 15 roundtable meetings, so we could see the new trends, we could see the new ideas, and we have to identify those and implement those. How can we do that? First of all, by having a new, better legislation, and second, developing new, healthy financial mechanisms. So to stimulate people and to enable people to become economically active. If you are involved with a credit union, you have a healthy benefit, healthy economic benefit. And I can give you quite many examples. Look at Moldova. I think that the participation level was about something like to 6%. That was some World Bank project, so we need to think what we can do under those circumstances today. And with the all support from our partners, we can work together to have a healthy economic impact. Because if we think that it's just a matter of legislation, no legislation can stimulate the population and change the situation radically. And we have this 26-year experience that is proving it. Because look at 1992, 1993, we had about like 3 million economically active people. Same statistics are there. So that we failed to develop a mechanism to engage people in economic activities.
I wish you healthy pragmatism, health, and fruitful work. Thank you.
And now I would like to ask Olga Maximchuk, member of the National Commission for State Regulation of Financial Services Market, the current regulator for the credit union sector. Thank you.
Воно вімкнуте, да? Можна говорити? Чи треба?
Good morning. I would like to greet all of you, representatives of credit unions, of the project association, the parliament, foreign guests with the holiday of credit unions. I would like also to announce one piece of news. It was my pleasure to make it public. On September 28-29 in Brussels, they had the second session of the Committee Association Ukraine, the EU. They discussed the issue regarding using in Ukraine the Directive 36 that sets the minimal capital requirement in the amount of 5 million euros. Olga Gurvich, my colleague, attended the event and proved to the European Parliament representatives that the aforementioned requirement, if applied to Ukrainian credit unions, is not well justified, and the European side agreed that Ukraine should be exempt from the aforementioned directives. It's my greeting to you on the occasion. But at the same time, it does not mean that the status quo will be conserved. It means that Ukraine was granted the right to set the requirements by itself, taking into the account of the Ukrainian situation. That would ensure credit unions' development, not oppression. 5 million euros, it's not just a realistic norm for Ukrainian credit unions. I would like to thank the project for the support in the issue. As far as with letters and other measures, the project supported the idea. I think that all stakeholders made their contributions. Much today will be said regarding relations between credit unions and agrarian sector. That requires small and medium-sized loans. There are banks, financial companies providing loans, but we say that credit unions that are located on the grassroots level should provide support to our farmers in this respect. It's a challenge not to the agrarian sector. I think that it's the challenge for you, the credit unions, just to create the conditions and products that will be interesting to agrarian producers. Based on today's result, we will have to think again what each of us can contribute to that realm. The credit unions, the regulator, the state agencies, the members of parliament. That is why I wish all of you that the relations between credit unions and agrarian sector should be not a theory, it should be a real life. Let's think and ensure that Ukraine could be proud of the fact that the credit unions provided the credit resources to the agriculture. I wish you inspiration, success, and development. It is development that will provide a future to the credit unions. Congratulations with the holiday.
To remain in the spirit of celebration, we have a very short video of Brian Branch, who is the president of World Council of Credit Unions, who sadly could not join us today, and Brian McCrory, chair of the vocal board, who is actually sitting in the first row and managed to, after several delays, to make it here. So we welcome Brian, and let us see that short video before we move to the first panel.
Happy International Credit Union Day. I'm Brian McCrory, Chairman of the World Council of Credit Unions.
I'm Brian Branch, here with my twin brother Brian. I serve as President and CEO of the World Council of Credit Unions, and we'd like to invite you to join us and celebrate International Credit Union Day on October 19th.
And this year's theme, Dreams Thrive Here, absolutely captures the spirit of what we can do as credit unions. We can make people's dreams and turn them into their new reality.
Each year, International Credit Union Day is a day that we recognize how credit unions proudly collaborate to put people before profits and help their members achieve their dreams.
Whether you're getting a loan or starting a small business, why not join 68,000 credit unions in 109 countries around the world, turning your dreams into reality?
About people, credit unions put people before profits. That's what drives our passion, to provide that financial empowerment of our members and help their dreams thrive.
What are credit unions truly about? Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And we want to thank you for making such a difference in the lives of your members and indeed your communities around the world.
And that work that you do is what makes us proud. Gives us the opportunity to celebrate. So please join us on October 19th to celebrate International Credit Union Day.
Thank you. And with that said, I would like to thank you, the opening panel, for your contributions, and welcome the panel that will discuss the role in the credit unions in the financial sector and how they're closing the access to finance gap. Up to the podium. Thank you.
Добрий день, шановні гості.
Good morning, dear guests. It's our pleasure to greet you at the international conference that is organized on the eve of the International Credit Unions Day and is dedicated to developing of the credit cooperation sector. Let's start the discussion about the role of the credit unions in the developing agriculture and diversification of the financial sector. It's my pleasure to introduce our guests, our panelists. Brian McCrory, head of the board of the World Council of Credit Unions, Adril Jelenchik, deputy head of the Fund for Guaranteeing Deposits of Natural Persons, Igor Primak, head of the Secretariat of the Parliamentary Committee on Financial Policy and Banks Activities, Olga Maximchuk, member of the National Commission for Regulating Financial Services Market. Petro Kozanets, President of the National Association of Credit Unions of Ukraine. Olga Moroz, President of the All Ukrainian Association of Credit Unions. To begin, I would like to say a couple of words. Presently, the financial services market plays a great role in our state's economy, and its development indicates the degree of development of our country. I mean, the number of financial institutions and diversification of services provided. The relevant functioning of the financial services market is based on the activities of financial intermediaries, among which the most important role is played by the credit unions, because credit unions are those financial institutions that enable getting financial services by citizens who have a low income level and SMEs, including in the agricultural sector. In today's difficult situation, it's not about only economical survival, but development of SMEs as well, including farmers. Their work is directly linked to credit resources to ensure uninterrupted production, processing, and sales of agricultural products. That is why agricultural enterprises are lacking financial resources that would push development of livestock breeding, plant growing, and so on. In such a situation, only loans can resolve the agricultural sector problems, because presently the agrarian sector plays a significant role in our economy. Recently, the interesting interview was given by the Ukrainian Prime Minister Groisman. The agrarian sector gives 12% of the Ukraine's GDP, but the potential is much higher. Also, Mr. Groisman pointed out that the level is quite good, but we can do better. We should develop SMEs in the rural areas, Ukrainian farms. The head of the government included into the draft budget for 2017 no less than 1 billion hryvnias to support Ukrainian farmers. Grossman says that using of high technologies will enable the agrarian sector to raise the level of production. It will enable to get high yields, to produce high value-added products and high quality. But at the same time, despite the aforementioned words, getting loans in the agrarian sector is a problematic issue and painful problem. The credit issue is based on the lacking state support measures and non-availability of banks' resources. Banks are working with the large enterprises. In 2015, two-thirds of farmers worked at the land plots less than 50 hectares. Banks' clients have higher acreage. That is why SMEs are potential clients for credit unions. Also, I should point out that credit unions offer, first of all, a simpler procedure for getting loans, transparent price of credit resources without hidden fees. It is a natural form of mutual assistance among citizens that has a significant social impact. Credit unions are practically a single credit for SMEs. That is why their development is extremely topical and necessary. Now I would like to address our guests. Petro, what is your opinion based on your vast experience? What is the role of credit unions in developing agriculture and the diversification of the financial sector? What would be your opinion? Good morning. It was mentioned today by those who referred to Ukrainian and global experience. Regarding potential of credit unions, I would like to reiterate that in 2007-2008, credit unions annually provided approximately 1 million in volume of credits to Ukrainian citizens. Today they mentioned that credit unions is people, not capital, first of all. Today, when banks are not providing loans to farms, to SMEs, credit unions can fill in that gap. Let us be open and say that in the recent 5-6 years, the credit unions' assets fell by 3 times, the membership by 4 times, and the contribution of the credit unions to the economic development presently, to put it mildly, leaves much to be desired. One more example I would like to provide. Look, I said that 1 million was granted by credit unions when the assets fell in the recent 5 years. In the recent year, there was some positive dynamics, but financial companies, pawn shops increase their assets by 3, 4, 5 times. You understand pretty well what it means. It's 300% of interest rate per annum. If the state would support credit unions, it would enable rank-and-file Ukrainian citizens, agrarian producers to be successful. The Moldova example was mentioned. The state decided there that the credit unions are necessary for the state. On the higher level, they drafted the credit union law. The Parliament of Moldova approved that, and they developed their credit unions. We're thankful to the parliamentary committee that supported the motion and the draft line legislation. But let's make sure that the new bill should be approved this year. It's my desire. It's not about the wordings of the law. The case is that Ukrainian population needs a signal saying that the state supports credit unions as an engine of the agricultural production. The farms should be supported by the state, as the Prime Minister said. The credit unions survived all the crises and are successfully developing, but they need a positive signal that would help us to increase our potential by times. Thank you. what would be your opinion regarding the following? If credit unions are strong competitors of banks, there are many people here who have been working in credit unions realm starting from 1990s. Some say that we are competitors, some people say that we can substitute banks, but I am happy that Mr. Brian is available here. In Ireland, there are banks and credit unions. In the United States, there are banks and credit unions. Regarding crediting provided to agro holdings, large enterprises, corporations, no just the options for credit unions here to be competitors to banks in Ireland, Ukraine, the USA, and Moldova. But no single banking system will be able to provide loans to small producers instead of credit unions. I would like to give an interesting example. Our Dutch colleagues are with us here. An interesting story. I have been working with credit unions for a long time, and I know that there is a system of credit unions of Volk, Raiffeisen Bank,
Rabobank, cooperative banks in Holland. And one would think the Dutch system functions very well. It reacts promptly, everyone knows about it, and one would think they do not need anything else. They do not need it to be better. A few years later, small businesses, private landholders initiated a new concept that credit unions would be highly needed in the Netherlands. And as I told you, the Dutch economy is very, very successful. But they decided that they needed credit unions. And who needs who? I think it's a very interesting question. It's very debatable. You remember, some time ago, we cooperated very efficiently with banks, and if we are talking the agricultural production, you know that the Cabinet of Ministers adopted special resolutions on agricultural markets, including the development of credit unions in this country. And the Cabinet of Ministers wanted the local authorities to establish a credit union in every rayon in this country, and they had to report about any success or lack of success, which is ridiculous. And of course, today this holiday is a very good occasion to sit down and calculate if we want financial companies to invest to 300 in huge companies. Let us support big financial institutions. If we want the financial institutions to support the vast masses of population, let us change the legislation, let us change the regulatory framework. We know that we have now issues with the regulator, it's all very uncertain. And this situation is a very big barrier to the development of credit unions. We do not compete with banks, and like everywhere. Thank you very much. Oli Moros, the question goes to you. Could you tell us what are the barriers? The barriers that credit unions face, and what can be done about it? Thank you, Elena, for the question, and I wanted to welcome the members of the credit union members that have and enjoy services and from their credit unions and own their credit unions and manage their credit unions, in fact. And I also wanted to highlight the fact that there is a very interesting message, dreams come true. Yes, the credit union is a place where a common ordinary person with dedication, with goodwill, can have his or her dream implemented. And I would like to thank you for this message. Elena, thank you for your question. What kind of barriers we are facing? I think that today we have to be quite careful about it, but I have to tell you that the Ukrainian parliament tends to support the credit union movement. It's not a matter of helping just ordinary people. It's also about the participation in this decentralization process, energy efficiency programs and initiatives at the local level, green tourism initiatives at the local and regional levels, supporting farmers, small agricultural producers, small individual producers in the rural areas. And you can see some initiatives at the parliament level. And we can see some constructive moves from the regulator. And thank you. Today it was announced already that at the international level there is a good understanding of the importance of the European of the credit unions, and that the European norms and standards should be carefully implemented in this country in order to not impede the development of the credit unions. There is also a lack of balance in this area, I have to tell you, including taxation, including the legislation in general, not necessarily in the financial sector. So all these factors would not allow us to plan long-term. It also has an impact upon the community development. We have statistics, we have some statistical data, and we know that the communities must be engaged in the development and initiation of credit unions. And this lack of certainty is a source of the problem that credit unions or new credit unions are not being established. So credit unions should be, as we say, self-sufficient on the one hand. On the other hand, the government should support, and I think that the government policies should be well balanced at all levels. Thank you. And another question: do you think what should be done at the state level in order to support cooperatives and credit unions at the national level? Well, if we are talking the national level, I think that we discussed it with colleagues within the credit union field, within cooperative field. I think that what we need to announce and support and implement a government program to support the cooperative movement. I mean consumer cooperatives, cooperatives of producers, credit unions, etc. There was some initiatives to support cooperatives. I think today we need a comprehensive initiative. At the regional level, credit unions already cooperate with the local cooperatives within a particular region. So I think that some experience is being gained already. And what we need to support the cooperatives, we need to consolidate the communities. And in this case, I think that the cooperatives and credit unions would be able to sustain and develop the economic life and local economies. Diversification of the services provided. When we have more small and medium businesses, we in fact have better services, a variety of services, and as my colleague put it, we will have a diversified financial sector, because every participant, every market participant will be providing individually designed services that would meet the actual needs of the local communities. I think we have experience that proves that. Thank you. Igor, I have a question to you, and maybe we touched some issues in the non-governmental sector and governmental sector. Are there any government programs aimed at the development of agricultural production, agricultural programs, etc.? Thank you for the question, and let me congratulate you with this occasion and this International Day, because your question is rhetoric in a sense, but I have to remember that I remember a great deal of state programs. You can call your good intention whatever you want. When you're talking a state program or a government program, well, it's an indication of a good intention, and I think that every ministry now designs and develops particular programs. Previously it was something, we called it agriculture, now we call it agricultural business. And as far as I know today, at the level of the Cabinet of Ministers, we have a document containing the key principles and key goals of the agricultural development in Ukraine. And we have this resolution 580 of the 22nd of June 2012. So I think based on this document we developed a concept for credit union development, and based on that document Petro Mikolaevich and Andrei Yaroslavovich are witnesses. I suppose we can see a great deal of amendments to the new legislation on agriculture, which was already considered on the 5th of September this year. We have this famous concept of the state program till 2020, and it contains the key principles, and the key principles are the engagement of investments, more investments in the agricultural sector, various initiatives to support the agricultural sector, support programs to support farmers, simplify the taxation system. I think that this, and we should hope that in the nearest future, next year, we probably will involve representatives of the Ministry of Finance. It's a very acute and very painful issue. I mean, taxation is a very important issue. And I would also say that there are many programs, but we may call it whatever, and we can put much hope on the government. But sometimes we think that the government is wearing a mask, and we want to see the real faces. You know, the government must do something in order to implement these programs. The programs are good documents, but they should be implemented, and this is what we need, a practical implementation. Thank you so much. And one more question, if I may. In your opinion, what are the most negative trends, factors that have a bad impact upon the credit cooperation and credit unions? Well, I would say still the legislation, probably in any country, in any field, any branch, any kind of institutions have to operate based on a particular legislation, and the legal framework is far from good. We would like, of course, first of all, to move the Ukrainian legal framework closer to the European legislation. Financial literacy would be also a very important issue. We need to educate people. We have to tell people what the credit unions do and can do for them. And such programs must be run at the regional level. And of course, we would like the associations and senior officials to be involved in this activity and in this educational program. A very important point would be to this project, for instance, I think is a very good opportunity to strengthen this financial literacy sector. So for me, what we call this human factor is a very important issue. We need to train good experts, good specialists, and who would be able to educate people, to advertise, and involve people with the credit cooperation. Thank you so much, Andrei. One of the biggest advantages of any person, any individual who would like to have a deposit, I think the protection and insurance of his deposit would be key issues. We know very well that the banking sector has such a mechanism. It's your deposit guarantee fund. You think that a similar mechanism for credit unions, is it necessary, and what are the barriers and the factors that would help you to establish such a mechanism? Well, first of all, I would like to join you and congratulate you with the International Credit Union Day. I think this is something we can absolutely celebrate, because Olena said that throughout the last 4 years, over half of the banks were resolved, liquidated, and the deposit guarantee system operated at full capacity. We paid to over 2 million depositors, including their families, relatives. So it was a very social issue. We paid out about 87 billion, and it's not the final figure. And do we need a similar system to protect the deposits? Do they need any insurance schemes of this kind or of similar kind? I think that absolutely such a system should be established and should be efficient and effective. And we can see it in the European directives. We can see the key principles, the international key principles of the Basel Committee for Deposit Insurance. We can see it in a variety of international documents. It was already mentioned in 2012. This is something not to be debated. Why it never happened before, and what can help us to establish such a mechanism? Well, what can help us? I think the most important factor would be probably well, those positive signals from the MPs, from the Parliament. There is some understanding that this problem is to be resolved, and we can see it at a rather high executive level. And I think this is something that can give us some optimism. At the same time, if we're talking the barriers, I think that Igor Mikhailovich already mentioned it. The first time, if I'm not mistaken, at the official level, in the official document, they mentioned something like in 2006, it was the government of Yakhanurev. Some protection mechanism would be established. It was June 2006. Well, 11 years have passed and nothing has changed, because we had different governments, we had changes, and we saw a great deal of changes, but there was no comprehensive policy, sensible policy on credit unions in this country. So yes, there are positive signals, but there is a lack of understanding that without credit unions we will not be able to deal with very many problems. We already discussed the importance of the agricultural sector, especially small producers, small businesses, small communities, agricultural communities, rural communities. Without credit unions, we will not be able to improve the situation of those people and develop the local economy. And we, of course, we can see that people say it's fantastic that in spite of all of this crisis, you're still alive. We're very happy for you. It's not enough. This is basically the key barrier. And I think that a real solution in the nearest future is needed. And the market, this market, of the market of credit unions, the credit movements, or credit union movement, there are signals, yes, but no actions so far. And talking about the deposit insurance scheme in Ukraine, of course, it's a separate story and it's a different story. And in order to have such a system, quite many serious reforms should be ensured.
In terms of state regulation and supervision, it's a common knowledge that any system for guaranteeing deposits that is used internationally is just the top of the pyramid. But it's only the third level of the deposit protection. To other levels also should be available. Otherwise, the system will have no basement, no basis. The first level, it's efficient prudential supervision. I should clearly say that the State Committee on Financial Services, regardless of its staff, based on the effective line legislation, have no institutional capacities in order to exercise efficient prudential supervision over credit unions. With or without just a split or whatever regulator works, be it the National Bank or some others, there are flaws and merits, risks, but the level should start working efficiently and reach objectives. The second level, there should be mechanisms in place to ensure efficient settling of problems in banks and credit unions, in all credit institutions working with citizens' deposits. In Ukraine, only banks and credit unions work with such deposits. Maybe it's enough within our financial sector. So there should be a system to support liquidity, of early intervention into the credit union's activities to rectify situations if needed when the credit union is bankrupt and the system for guaranteeing deposits should be enacted. Such a level should be created starting from 1992. We never had such a level in real terms. I hope that in further developing the draft law on credit unions in new wording, all these problems will be comprehensively resolved. Though I'm not that optimistic personally. I don't think before the end of the year the law will be approved. Maybe the first reading it's just a doable thing, it's more realistic, and in 2018 we will continue. That's it. Not early than that, but we will do our best to make it earlier. Let's be more optimistic. One more question to you, Andrei. According to the current legislation, the state is not liable in relation to the credit unions liabilities. So the problems need to be resolved. Unfortunately, presently, there is no mechanism for self-refinancing of credit unions. The banks are more lucky. The National Bank provides refinancing to support liquidity to banks. How credit unions should be refinanced? Is it needed? And secondly, allocation of funds for refinancing credit unions. Should it be provided by the National Bank of Ukraine, or should it be envisaged in the annual budget law? Or you have your own vision of refinancing issue in relation to credit unions? Thanks. It's clear. Banks are lucky indeed. Banks have always been the center of attention. In the recent 4 years, I should say the tens of thousands of the bank clients were not lucky. We see what are the consequences of so-called cleansing of the bank system. If credit unions need to be refinanced, yes, absolutely. Should it be made by the National Bank, or the budget law should include that? I think both, because refinancing can be different. If it's refinancing provided in terms of stabilization loans when the things are really bad, and sanation programs should be enacted. The only source for getting such loans is the National Bank. No specialized funds created by associations can do that. If the state does not do that, the credit union system will not be able to cope. If the National Bank would be able to play such a role for granting stabilization loans to credit unions, only if the National Bank becomes a prudential regulator. But even if it doesn't happen, but the state should be interested to protect the system in whole. Anyway, the National Bank should be involved, but the political will is needed for that. So far, we do not have relevant signals about it. The other kind of refinancing, just to support liquidity, when it's not about bankruptcy of credit union, but there is a liquidity gap to be filled. In such a case, certain tools may be enacted involving the available market structures, the cooperative banks, maybe, but anyway, the state should intervene. The resources should be used in such a case, and without that, no efficient liquidity support can be reached. In any case, the state player should be involved for supporting the system in a whole. And the third option with involving the state budget resources, if there is an understanding that the credit unions should be supported, they should be in the focus of attention. The most advantageous conditions for their development should be created to resolve agricultural issues. I think that financial companies and banks, pawn shops will not be involved. It's not their realm. But the state budget, the government should allocate certain funds at least to support some massive targeted programs to support credit unions to compensate interest rates, or the better option to provide loans on transparent basis to broaden the volumes of credits, mitigating the risks, and to broaden the presence of credit unions where the state needs that. I think that in refinancing the answer is yes, there are different options, all of them are reasonable. The question is there are some differences in the list of stakeholders in different kinds of refinancing, and the approaches and mechanisms would be different. But we also need positive signals. Thank you. Olga Semchuk, being the regulator representative, what is your opinion regarding the hindrances to the credit union's activities? What impedes active development of agro credits? What is the situation in the credit cooperation in terms of regulators' position? Once again, good morning. I think that much was said regarding the issue. I would like to thank Andrei Lanchuk for his answers. They are so exhaustive. I absolutely agree with him. I wouldn't like to discuss hindrances. There are certain credit unions in Ukraine that have been existent since 1991. They survived one or two crises, and that didn't influence their solvency and success. Please raise your hands. Who works in credit union has been working in credit union for more than 15 years? And they do not have any lacking. It's the regulator's opinion. They are developing, they provide loans. Yes, we have certain deficiencies, there is something to add. Though credit unions that have a well-balanced credit policy, diversify their portfolio, assess solvency of their borrowers, their credit portfolio works and lets them to get profits, to develop credit union, to cover expenditures, to pay deposits, and no issues arise. If we discuss hindrances, I would like to mention something that was not taken into account. Other credit unions, what we see in terms of prudential supervision, the credit union's problem starts when the loan is issued, when a credit union issues too large loans that are not diversified, or, for example, invests only in construction sector, in property rights, just big loans. Such non-balanced policy leads to just 20–30% of non-paid loans, and 100%, and it is bankrupt. I think that using positive example of those unions that do exist will help other credit unions that have, as you say, have hindrances. I'd like to thank those credit unions thanks to whom the movement of unions does exist. There are many bankrupt unions, but I would like to thank those who are still alive, and they give us the hope that it's possible to do this business, and it will be helpful for the community in whole. Thank you. One more question. The Article 21 of the line law, the credit union issues loans to the members based on certain conditions. Though the farms also can get loans from the credit union owned by the credit union members. So the law limits the members just only to the farms owned by the members of the credit union. What are the novelties in the aligned legislation that should be approved in order to improve the situation? Thanks for your question. It was a disputable issue indeed. We're discussing broadening membership of credit unions. It should comprise legal and natural persons, farms in particular. Presently, there are limitations regarding membership. Only natural persons may be members. It doesn't mean that there are certain hindrances for granting agricultural credits. Presently, more than 10% of all loans provided by the unions are given to agricultural sector. Though naturally not always it's convenient for the farmer to get a loan as a natural person and then invest to the development of his or her enterprise. I do agree that broadening membership will simplify the procedure of issuing such loans. As Andriy has mentioned quite correctly, we cannot say that credit unions are lacking demand for loans or they have just free money to invest into the agrarian sector. The free resources should be available with credit unions to be spent on issuing loans to agrarians. It's an idea. The same law in Moldova on credit unions and in other countries in particular, we had a brainstorming organized by USA project. Different countries' representatives attended and one of them said how in Africa they work in credit unions, like in Moldova law. The joint credit unions before the agrarian season accumulate funds not only from credit union members but also from other legal entities, and the current Ukrainian legislation allows to involve the third parties funds if the sum doesn't exceed 50% of the union's assets. It can be the public budget, for example, when the funds are directly allocated to target programs. It's possible to attract such funds and then to give this resource to the agrarian sector. In my opinion, this way, this mechanism will provide more diversification. Our credit unions exist in certain regions, but agriculture it's high-risk business in terms of being weather-dependent. At least once in 4 years, certain disasters happen that influence yields. In order to diversify credit union risks, to minimize the risk that once in 4 years a cataclysm happens and agrarian producers will all be not able to repay their loans, and if the pledge is for the yield, it will not be available as well. If the joint credit union really works, it will diversify this risk because the amount will be given to credit union working in different regions. It's an idea. It's my call to associations that have joint credit unions. So we may discuss much regarding agro loans, but unless credit unions have such a resource, we will not be able to broaden crediting to the agrarians. Let's think about it as well. Thank you.
Could you tell us, please, Mr. Bryan, in Ireland, credit unions cover the majority of the population. Why? What is their secret that the normal individual in Ireland does not trust the banking institutions? What would you say about the competition in this market in Ireland, and what is the role of credit unions in that country?
I suppose I can give a very smart answer and tell you that no, the population do not trust banks by and large. But it's slightly more complex than that. Credit unions in Ireland exist alongside banks. Most, if not all, credit union members also have bank accounts. And of course, we would like to encourage our credit union members to utilise the services of the credit unions much more. The credit union movement in Ireland has been slow to develop its complexity, but over recent years that has been changing. Like other credit union systems around the world, we're moving into an environment where personal lending is about a third, SME lending would be a third, and within a couple of years, home mortgage lending should be about a third of our financial portfolio. Diversification of risk, that is part of that strategy, to be involved in different market segments. So in relation to why or how the Irish movement has achieved such penetration into the population, I suppose it's got to do with the structure of our society historically. And if we were going to do it over, we would not necessarily do it in the same way. We didn't have a plan, or at least I wasn't part. Our founders didn't have a plan. So it was basically based on a parish system. So the parish set up a credit union, and the next door parish, you understand what a parish is, yes? Okay, so the next door parish got envious, so they set up a credit union. And we ended up with over 540 on the island, which realistically was unsustainable. But within the parish context, people realised that they were borrowing money from each other. It was a very personal relationship, and they were lending money to each other. It was about self-empowerment. So over that period of 65 years, the face of credit unions in Ireland has changed enormously, from collecting money in small tins, very small amounts, from credit unions would range up to maybe 500 million sterling, or as low as 3 or 4 million. So there's a broad range of size and complexity and diversity. We're about self-empowerment, really. It's about ordinary people trying to do something which banks don't. We're not anti-bank, but we provide a range of banking services on a not-for-profit basis, and quite often people don't understand that. I've been involved in credit union development regulation in Brussels with Treasury in England, Central Bank of Ireland, World Bank, IMF. When we talk about cooperatives, most of the people making the regulation have no experience at all of cooperatives. They're bankers, and bankers only. So oddly we find that the people making the regulations or determinations for the cooperative sector or the credit union sector have no experience or knowledge, and they design clothes to fit an entirely different animal. And we're at WACA, we're in the business of trying to encourage governments, legislators and regulators to create appropriate and proportionate regulation for credit unions that provide a very unique and different service. Banks are a business, and I suppose it's become expedient in recent years to develop a conscience as a bank, and banks have grown their arms of social corporate responsibility. So the banks, at least, have manifested some sort of public conscience. Credit unions, on the other hand, were largely conscience with a business, not business with a conscience. And that's a very, very different DNA. There have been failures in the Irish system, and there are lessons for everyone to learn from that. And that really is about governance, resilience, building resilience, and having an appropriate level of regulation and responding to the needs of members. Governments around the world, and particularly Ireland, all of our politicians love credit unions. Most of them have yet to do anything about that. And that's reflected around the globe. We need our politicians to deliver for ordinary people doing extraordinary things. There is so much to say about credit unions. It isn't just about financial capital. It's about social capital. It isn't just about financial dividend. It's about a social dividend. For example, the European directive requiring the minimum threshold of capital of 5 million for a new credit institution or a credit union was driven by bankers. Had that regulation existed whenever credit unions were being formed in Ireland, there would be no credit union system in Ireland. None. So I'm glad to hear that here in Ukraine, a slightly different approach has been facilitated and will be facilitated. One other observation, and whilst it's the theme of what we are about today, credit for agricultural producers, credit unions are not just solely about the provision of credit for farmers. You all know that, I know that. It's a key part of what we do, but it's not the only thing that what we do. And we need to focus on building the credit union infrastructure within rural and urban economies as well. Just recently in Ireland, we were celebrating, our one credit union was celebrating their 60th anniversary. And we had the son of one of the guys who got their first loan. And in those days, Ireland was not a very prosperous place, far from it. And I asked, well, what can you tell me about that? And he said, well, his father had taken out the first business loan in the credit union. I said, well, was your father not working? His father had been a joiner, and the first business loan, it turned out, was for a bucket and a ladder. Said, what had that got to do with joinery? He opened a business cleaning windows, and from those profits, he opened his own joinery works. and his son now employs 400 people. So credit unions can act as a lever within society to provide financial growth within local communities. Again, in Ireland, just recently, we've celebrated what credit unions can do together. One local collective of credit unions used their surplus capital to fund a building programme that provided quite a number of social housing units, a pharmacy, a doctor's surgery, a library, a civic centre, and a creche, all derived from the profits from the local credit union. It's about keeping the profits within the local community. So I could talk for a long time about a lot of things, but you're equally as passionate about all of these as me. I hope I've covered what I was asked.
Мені би хотілося, я думаю, як і всьому залу,
I would like to hear more, and I think it was a very, very interesting presentation. And I'm sure the participants would agree. Probably, what kind of advice would you offer to the Ukrainian credit unions? What should they do in order to be capable to fight better? Should they put much hope on the legislation, on the support from the government? Just your advice.
Support from government, if you get it, is to be welcomed. But it's more a question of if and when. We all need support from government, whether it be financial or other, but it's simply or mostly about creating an environment that facilitates credit union growth and development, that allows for the expansion and the engagement of the population in self-fulfillment and realising those dreams either together or collectively. I would look to other credit union movements around the world and see what lessons you can learn from them. I have been in a very fortunate position of having seen quite a number of them firsthand, and a number of them are just absolutely fabulous. They're so inspiring. In particular, the first one that comes to mind is Brazil. From the cooperative credit union movement in Brazil has grown a huge cooperative movement. When I visited there a number of years ago, I was surprised to find that local indigenous people in what looked like forest areas ran chicken farms. And my naivety thought, oh, there's a couple of guys running about with 20 or 30 chickens. No. These were indigenous peoples who had been funded by their credit unions to open chicken rearing establishments, and they were raising them at 5, 10, 15,000 in the jungle in a very eco-friendly way. And they participated in that credit cooperative. The credit union movement provided the finance. The credit union movement seed funded the cooperative that made the animal feed. That was a cooperative business. There was a cooperative developed for sales and marketing and exporting, and there was a whole interlinked value chain. And all of those profits were retained within the local communities for their benefit and the development of the infrastructure that supports those communities. And there's a lot to be envious within that system. There are other systems as well. The most important part of any movement are its people. The most important ambassador for any movement are its people. The most important capital to the credit union movement is its people. So we can engage in media campaigns and we can do all sorts of wonderful things in Facebook, and that's sort of a generation behind me, but I do sometimes try to keep up. But the real evangelizers for the credit union movement will be its members. That's how I got brought into the credit union movement, and I can tell you, it wasn't because of any great insight on my part or an ambition to do something. I was a credit union member. I've been a credit union member since I was 18. I never really thought much about it. And bought my first motorcycle, went on my first holiday, went to second holiday, funded my student life. Never really thought, didn't really participate. And I got a phone call from a board member of a credit union. Brian, we're having our AGM. We don't have enough for a quorum. There's a bottle of wine for anybody who shows up. I've been a member ever since, and that was the first in getting involved in the operation of credit unions. And from that time, it was the people around me who brought me in, who showed me what it was about, who educated me, who exposed me to the principles of cooperation. That is what brought me in. Not just what the credit union done for me, but what I could do for other people. And I don't mean that in any sort of magnanimous way, because I get more out of it ultimately than I give to them. And you will all know that from the work that you do yourselves. I don't think there's any one lesson. There's a whole range of lessons. But life is about learning after all.
Що, пану Петро, ви хочете задати питання?
Petro, you want to ask something? Let us.
Я дивлюсь.
That is what I wanted to do. I'm looking at. Tomorrow we have this great holiday, the International Credit Union Day, and I think the National Association is going to take part. But I wanted to say this. This meeting, I think, provides a great deal of optimism about tomorrow. And I wanted to say this. What can inspire us? Today, the credit union movement is very active. It receives a great deal of support from the international community. USAID, the US government allocated millions of dollars. And I wanted to thank Mr. Brian personally. And I'm repeating, head of the director, head of the board at the world level. They have about over $1 trillion, assets worth $1 trillion, came to Ukraine to support the Ukrainian movement and the Ukrainian institutions. So I wanted to thank Brian, and I wanted to thank the other Brian. Virtually every year he visited us, and I think that gives us inspiration and hope that, in spite that Igor Mikhailovich told us that the government is wearing a mask, I think we are going to see their faces soon, and it's a matter of international solidarity that would force our government to do something to support the credit union. Thank you very much. And I also wanted, from my whole heart, to thank the participants, and I think it was a very interesting discussion. I also wanted to tell you that on behalf of this project, the CAMP project will do all we can in order to improve the legislation, the regulatory framework, in order to ensure that the cooperative principles are respected in this country and the credit unions can compete with all other financial institutions. I again would like to congratulate you with this holiday and repeat this. When we help other people, we help ourselves, and we are helping our country to grow and to become more successful. As you know, as people said it and highlighted it, the key advantage of the credit unions, not the money, it's the people. I would like to invite you to have some coffee.
I would say the following. My thoughts are quite the same what said our presenters. But there is something I would like to inform you about. Something that will give you optimism, and it will be different from something else. The updated law is not finalized. No resources. Will we wait? No. There is such a Latin saying, volentem ducunt, nolentem trahunt. I do like it. I'm not sure that translators will translate it. If you will something to do something, the fate leads you, and if you don't, it drags you. And we Ukrainians should prove that credit unions are ready and are able to cope with such tasks that the legal framework will be relevant to our society and economy needs, and the resources and investments they will be looking for us. I don't think that the roadshow should be made investment. Please find me. I'm that attractive. Please come to me. Money is looking for what to invest in. The money comes where it will grow. It's the basic concept for any investor. No point to pray. The investor should be convinced with the experience. Let's see what experience can be helpful for the country. The project, my colleagues think that we are living in a unique time for credit cooperation. Those who will understand that well and would use it will win, and our country's economy also will win. Do we have a middle class in Ukraine? No, we don't have, in practical terms, only singular cases. No middle class in Ukraine. How to create it from oligarchs? Do you believe that? No, no. It will be created from small producers, which sector is raising and is resistant to crisis and has always been available in Ukraine. It's agriculture. It's quite obvious that economy development, agricultural development, I mean SMEs, it's a prerequisite for economic growth and state building. And finally, democracy is not viable without middle class. And we hope that democracy will not be just a one-time event and claptrap phrases. But the middle class should be created for that purpose. Let's create it together. And this video screening, it's just real stories of real people, those who live in rural areas, and they just create something. Let's listen to them, and we will continue after that. The buckwheat is good. This year, Miroslav Zheginsky had problems with his tractor and no money to fix it. The credit union helped to the farmer. I don't know if the bank will provide money soon, but within 3 days I resolved my issue through the credit union. The union is located in this area. There are certain issues in farmers' activities that require certain funds. The technology requires something, and fast money needed. They come to us for such a research. It's possible to repay interest rate, but the main amount can be used at the same time. Here in Shigini village on the Polish border, farmer rents 180 hectares growing soya, rape, buckwheat. He borrowed 50,000, 100,000 for buying fertilizers, seeds. The banks are not willing such things. They are interested in larger amounts. So farmers cooperate with credit unions. It's the downtown Lviv building that hosts the regional credit union. Before the USSR time, in Galicia, there were more than 1,000 such unions. After restoration of our state, thanks to the American Canadian diaspora, so we renewed activities of our credit unions. Credit union works as their mutual assistance tool. Some people just make deposits, others take loans. It helps to join the resources on the local community level. In the USSR time, they forgot this self-organization form of activities. During the crisis time, it was compromised and distorted. Now it is renewed and it provides resources to local businesses in rural areas. Farmers need resources, SMEs who start working. It's difficult for them to get something from banks, but we are mobile, we can do that. We mastered these things. The USA helps helping agro credits in Ukraine. They say credit cooperation in rural areas provides just money for the economy.
Of bridging access to finance between the SMEs and bigger clients who are served by banks and those who do not have any access. So that's number one. I think nobody else can do that. Banks won't go where credit unions are present. And they also play a social role and economic development role because of where they are and who they serve. Again, they go before the profits, they work for the members, for their communities. So
Оксана Лігостова для Голосу Америки, Львів, Київ.
And presently we will see the second video going eastward. It was procured using the credit union funds. In order to buy this tractor, Vyacheslav Alexeychuk borrowed 500,000 hryvnias in credit union. In spring he took the loan, and in autumn he paid that back. His farm is specializing on fruit and berries. It's growing. He is going to plant a new apple garden. They need a certain equipment for that purpose. I need much, at least 100,000 euros to buy equipment. And the farmer is relying on the local credit union. Previously he cooperated with banks. In bank, it takes to pledge a lot of property. It's problematic. It's easy for us to work with credit unions, so we get faster advantages. The farmer says that he likes credit unions because it's fast. You take money today and repay tomorrow. No fines for premature payments, or if you have issues with timely payments, you are given to a certain additional time. In Cherkasy Credit Union, Vyacheslav comes here quite often. Local farmers get loans here. They call it the People's Bank. They resolve problems mutually. We know them in person. We visit their farms. They come to us on Sundays and Saturdays. They call to my telephone when they want. In 1990s, they started from Mutual Assistance Fund of Chernobyl workers. The first loan was 411 hryvnias. Now it's millions of hryvnias, and the units are in all Cherkasy districts. And there is a line for farmers to get their resources. They borrowed much from the global experience. Issuing loans, they calculate how to maintain the business. A person comes to us, we ask, why do you need money? He says, I want to have a livestock farm, or to buy a cow and buy milking equipment. In this respect, we provide a credit product that explains how to start with, what is the technology relevant, why it's profitable, and in this way we mitigate our risks and we guarantee success for our clients. Oksana Ligostova from Cherkasy region, Voice of America. Thank you for your attention. You see, Voice of America could see our farmers. The second farmer voiced higher amounts, and maybe you think where to take such sums. The first farm mentioned that they provide loans since 1340. The second farmer is quite a big one with high acreage. He has been working for many years with the credit union. He is developing, but he started from small volumes. Let's discuss that at our second panel. Please take your seats. I will ask you questions. We are very interested what you think. This is related to how to build middle class in agriculture, to make it today, not the day after tomorrow. It's our pleasure to greet our speakers. Viktor Vasilievich Sheremeta. I think that many of you see him for the first time. Many saw him before. He is the Deputy Minister of Agrarian Policy, covering the issue of supporting farmers. It's a new position in the ministry. It shows that not only we understand that it's the relevant time for this agenda. He is the farmer himself, by the way. Let us listen to Viktor Vasilievich. What he thinks now, what is his main message in his agenda. He has just come to do something. If he sees a real role of credit unions in supporting farmers. You're welcome. I greet all participants of today's event. I would like to emphasize that we are doing good work. Presently, the market farmers have no financial resources, and it's the main reasons for underdeveloping level of farmers' activities in Ukraine. Presently, we have 30,000 of them. Before 40,000 we had. What are the prerequisites for such a problem? It's a lack of financial resources. Before coming here, I looked through the documents. Today we have a budget program for compensation of interest rates of bank loans. The budget allocates 300 million for that purpose. But after an analysis, I could see that SMEs in agriculture took only 3% of this amount. Why so? It's because small farmers, like we could see in the videos, and the speakers also says that on the one hand, it's difficult to get a loan because small farmers, as a rule, do not have a liquid collateral, and banks are not willing to issue loans to them. And as a rule, farmers are not able to make a business plan, and no experts available for that purpose, just to ensure being issued a bank loan.
And there are problems, and small producers do not have access to financial resources that they need. And today, it was said already, that credit unions are a good channel to provide, or a good source to provide farmers with financial resources, because as far as I know, credit unions are not represented in all regions, in all oblasts in Ukraine, but I know farmers with a good collateral, acceptable collateral, who have to go to his neighbor who has money, who is in business, and to borrow. The interest rate may be twice as high as what the banks offer, but these are quick money, the money that he needs right now and that he can use right now. And I can give you another example. And not so long time ago, there was this producer in Zhytomyr Oblast. He came to a bank, he needed a loan, and he provided all documents, and it took some time, and he was about to finish sitting, and he needed money right away, and they said no, the very last moment, and he could not get money from another bank, and he needed not much, just a little bit, and he said, what am I going to do? Am I going to close my business or what? So this issue is rather acute, and it's a very important problem. Not just small farmers, but I would say even bigger businesses. It's also very acute for the country as a whole, because it's not the first time I'm saying this. You know, an agricultural producer, rural people, are a cornerstone of this nation. So we have to preserve and protect the Ukrainian rural communities and the Ukrainian agricultural producers. If you want me to continue, we have already some developments, and you probably have heard about this billion, this glorious billion that they allocated to support the farmers, and yes, they approved it on the one hand. On the other hand, I'm looking at the mechanisms and at the directions that they indicated, and I do not know whether they will be able to support small farmers, small producers, so that small producers can get compensations and for equipment, machinery, livestock, crops, all those costs. It's a high figure. It's processing is a big issue. The amounts are quite high, and I in fact invited heads of departments and divisions to ask them, a farmer who lacks financial resources, how can he sustain his business? Will he benefit from the millions that they allocated? But today he may not have no base, no projects, no facilities, no capacities, and because it is strange, and I think this program is to be improved, and I think we shall hear from the participants, and I suppose that we shall sign or approve some declaration at the end of this event. Thank you. I cannot hold you there. Go on. Microphone, please. Будь ласка, в мікрофон.
Ні один кредит не заборгований, всі повернуть. Наші фермери стали багатшими енну кількість раз, дякуючи доступу до цих дрібних ресурсів. Ваш досвід у Хмельниччині, у Житомирщині, йому бракує, ми даємо. Він має банківський кредит, ми готові дати йому сьогодні оцю невеличку суму, яка йому бракує закрити. І ми маємо на цьому досвід. Пишіть в бюджеті і кредитним спілкам ці програми, які ви розглашаєте.
Дякую, Володимир Михайлович. Тим більше, що ми зараз до цього ж підійдемо. Трошки, нічого, через ви молодець, ви просто піонер. І це чудово. Да. Ні, ви піонер в розумінні як перший, розумієте? Так, але ми до цього дійдемо, тому що, ви знаєте, ми взагалі так вважаємо в проєкті, і це базується вже на багаторічному нашому досвіді, що це добре, коли є підтримка, допомога, скажімо, з одного якогось боку. Дуже добре, якщо, може, є з іншого, але найкраще, коли проблема вирішується комплексно. От тоді, коли вже нема западаючих ланок, от тоді є велика вірогідність, що вся система піде догору в розвиток. І наше, Тамара Вікторівна, трошки пізніше, чесно, бо зараз зіб'ємо все і буде в нас збори. Збори з 2-ї години будуть. Все буде. Ні. Стривайте, ми зараз так розкажемо. Так що я хочу підійти до того комплексного вирішення проблеми, і Віктору Васильовичу це має бути дуже цікаво, тому що, я ще раз кажу, тільки з одну, скажімо, сподіваємося на державну допомогу. Класно, сидимо, чекаємо, нема, значить все. Сподіваємось на оновлення, там, скажімо, прибутковість, ой, чудово, але ж це не вирішує проблеми, розумієте? Ми вивчили дуже уважно багатющий світовий досвід, тому що хочеш зробити щось, то подивися на ще чужі помилки. Ти все одно зробиш свої, але краще уникнути чужих, використати міжнародний досвід. І наш проєкт таким чином щасливо побудований, він практично весь побудований лише на сучасному світовому досвіді. Мале фермерство. В Україні скільки відсотків виробляють приватні господарства картоплі? 95%. Овочі, фрукти – 85%. Суттєва доля молока, навіть зернові, ніхто не вірить. Але ж це так, зернові поряд з агрохолдингами є суттєві відсотки виробництва зернових малими приватними підприємствами, фермерами. Так? для того, щоб хотіти надавати ресурси, вони їх потребують. Одного слова «хочу» замало, має бути слово «можу». От щоб змогти, кредитним спілкам дуже швидко потрібно стати такими, щоб і гроші до них пішли, і гроші від них пішли, і щоб вони були на коні. І щоб в них не 30% неповернення було, а так, як ми бачили в, скажімо, тих кредитних спілках, які дуже пильно займаються цією проблемою, відсоток неповернення менше 1% серед агрокредитів. Банківська система довго мріє про те, і до того йдемо, і щиро це бажаємо. А в нас це вже є і буде. І зараз ми поговоримо з паном Ріцем Дікстра, який представляє спільноту саме тих дуже потрібних нам експертів з агрофінансування. Це група провідних експертів з Нідерландів. Тої країни, яка забезпечує шалений відсоток світового експорту, скажімо, овочівництва – 75%. Країна, яку, я нікого не хочу образити, але вона не найбільша на карті, на географічній мапі. Але подивіться, якщо порівняти з Україною, ну наче так, ну, скажімо, да? Але отой висоток виробництва, як це стало можливо, завдяки чому? Які технології того агрофінансування існують, як нам їх набути? Нам допомагають в тому експерти. Пане Ріце, розкажіть нам, будь ласка, про спрямування вашої роботи. В чому це відрізняється від, скажімо, прийшов і прочитав лекцію. Дуже добре, всі аплодують, лекцію почули, навіть інколи занотували, що робити далі. Підхід експертів групи ПУМ інший. І в тому запорука успіху наш проєкт. Прошу, пане Ріце.
Okay, thank you.
Ну, дякую, Наталія. Дякую за це. І дякую за те, що запросили нас до цієї програми. Вже 9 місяців з початку її пройшло. І дякую за те, що запросили нас на цей захід сьогодні. Мій колега, він з Рабобанку, я вже говорив, і вже ми говорили, пан Козінець згадував про нього. І я також працював в комерційному банку в Нідерландах. І до кінця наступного тижня ми працюємо в Україні, перебуваємо в Україні, ми відвідаємо певні кредитні спілки. І, можливо, коротко можу сказати про нашу фундацію. Це група волонтерів, добровільців у різних галузях. І у нашому випадку ми представляємо банківський сектор мікрофінансування. Ми усі волонтери, як я казав. І ми, можливо, завершили вже професійну кар'єру і зараз працюємо у фундації. Ми маємо досвід банківської діяльності, маємо досить суттєвий досвід того, як організувати належні фінансові послуги. Але я міг би кілька слів сказати про це, як ми працюємо. Ми ділимося знаннями, і це найкращий спосіб досягти мети. Синергія, як ми її називаємо, об'єднання зусиль – це той процес, який ми починаємо в Україні, об'єднуючи знання і потенціал з різних джерел, різних людей. І оце саме те, що називається синергія. 1+1 дорівнює 3 у нашому випадку. Як ми це робимо? Ми маємо досвід роботи в фінансових установах. Таким чином ми розробляємо стратегію, яка могла б забезпечити збалансовану політику. Ми знаємо, як забезпечити бізнес-аналіз, як здійснювати бізнес-аналіз, яким чином встановити надійні факти, цифри, які стануть основою проекту, яким чином це реалізувати. Але це не єдине, що нам потрібно, це перший крок. Але важливим кроком є також місцевий досвід, місцеві знання фермерів і клієнтів. Ви знаєте ваших клієнтів, ви знаєте вашу місцеву економіку набагато краще, ніж хто завгодно, який має статистику Центрального бюро чи якогось Держстату в Києві. Ви знаєте реалії і місцеві ринки. Ви знаєте ваш бізнес упродовж тривалого часу, ваші організації, вже, може, десятиріч, ваші організації працювали на місцевому ринку. Ми можемо запропонувати досвід інших місць. Коли ми працювали в кредитних спілках у різних місцях на заході України, і ми можемо, звичайно, поділитися цим досвідом з, наприклад, Східною Україною. Тобто ми можемо розказати про ті ж самі обмеження, про обмеження невдачі, вдачі, проблеми і так далі. І четверте, що є надзвичайно важливим, тут є багато документації по світі. Велика кількість документів англійською мовою, надзвичайно важливі документи, написано українською мовою також. І якщо я міг би два приклади навести, наприклад, інструментарій щодо агрокредитування, опубліковано Американським агентством міжнародного розвитку. Цей інструментарій, цей портфель інструментів надзвичайно є цікавим і корисним. На основі міжнародного досвіду його складено і можна використовувати ці ресурси дуже добре. Другий приклад Баку. Це фінансування, організація системи фінансування, мережі фінансування або ланцюжка фінансування, яка залучає постачальників, компаній, які обробляють агропродукцію, тобто усіх, хто бере участь у процесі виробництва і створення доданої вартості. Що стосується вашого запитання, в Нідерландах Україна в 15 разів більша за Нідерланди. У нас 17 мільйонів проживає людей. Наскільки я пам'ятаю, Україна 40 має, це вже в 2,5 разів більше. Але ваша країна у 15 разів більша за розміром. І Україна має чудовий ґрунт і чудову землю. І це, звичайно, є потенціалом збільшення як розміру вашого агросектору, так і якості вашого сектору, вашої продукції. Але в нашій маленькій країні ми маємо досить великі показники агровиробництва. Звичайно, ми не за розміром такі, як Україна, але ми використовуємо надзвичайно інтенсивні технології у теплицях. Подивіться на західну частину Нідерландів, ви побачите, вона вся покрита склом. Тобто це надзвичайно інтенсивні методи виробництва. Я не фахівець у агровиробництві, але мені здається, це те, що можна зробити і в Києві. Київ може розробити агропродукцію на певних територіях, на більших територіях. Тобто, і, звичайно, це запитання до спеціаліста, агроспеціаліста. Але необхідно пам'ятати, малі підприємства в будь-якій економіці, Німеччина, Сполучені Штати, Нідерланди, є двигуном розвитку економіки набагато більше, ніж великих компаній. Якщо інвестуєте $1 мільйон в 15 виробників або $1 мільйон в одну мультинаціональну компанію, то я можу вам сказати, що малі виробники, які отримали інвестицію $1 мільйон, створять більше робочих місць, забезпечать розвиток місцевої економіки, а великі компанії – це великі централізовані фабрики, які використовують транспортну мережу і так далі. І, тобто, малий бізнес є мотором економіки. І я можу сказати, що сільхозвиробництво у Нідерландах, в теплицях, і ще одна, я завершую, найбільші фермери, я можу вам сказати, що вони не такі великі, як середні виробники в Україні.
Енергія почало битися інтенсивніше, тому що ми дійшли зараз до тої частини нашого обговорення.
Because today that we are reaching the point that is extremely important. Yes, thank you so much. The access to financial courses, financial university, it's what POOM created. It's a financial university on agri-lending, and our experts operate based on the following principle. They stay with the local credit union, they appreciate the local conditions, and they try to help to design a policy that would fit this particular credit union, because there are no general solutions. Again, Sergey, it goes straight to your heart, and I think that the development of skills and knowledge would not be enough. I think in order to reach a new level of agricultural production in this country, it's what Viktor Vasilievich mentioned, we need a comprehensive approach. If we have a farmer with, as a member of this credit union, he got a loan, and he is coming 2 months later to tell you that his corn all died out, and it went black, and no yield can be expected. It's a big disaster, isn't it? Or, for instance, farmers obtained a loan, like the cucumber producers, for instance. It's quite in demand, but when they have cucumbers, they must understand that there is such thing as a standard, and no one was going to buy cucumbers one by one, and what they are going to do to repay your loan. I think that this is something we have to bear in mind, and we have to discuss it within the credit union and the producers. So we have to improve the quality of the agricultural production. It's not about what we are doing in this project, but Sergei Slipchenko is going to say a few words. He is working with other USAID project.
It's about the growth from the other side, and our link, our partnership is a prerequisite of the success. I mean, efficiency of agrarian production and proficiency of credit unions. Sergei, what would we comment on that? Very briefly about our project. Our project, by its name, says that we support agrarian and rural development. We have several trends of working. We work with SMEs and service cooperatives in terms of improving corporate governance in the service cooperatives, certification of SMEs, and some others. My function is to find funding sources for good projects. Frankly speaking, it's possible to find finance for SMEs. I make trainings for compiling financial models for middle-sized enterprises, and afterwards we support them when they are trying to get financing from banks. But there are certain issues in relation to service cooperatives. If it comprises certain bankable structures, it's one thing, but what to do to other service cooperative members who are farms or are smaller in size that are not interesting to banks. The credit unions can greatly help in this terms. Fast work, liquidity, it is what banks cannot be providing nowadays. But there are certain limits in amounts. From our side, what we see today, it would be extremely helpful and important if service cooperative or other legal entity that would arise after the new law is approved, if they could get funding as a legal entity. Why? If it's about rural development, we should mention the added value. It's some processing, sorting that helps to get higher value, or creating certain patches of products. For example, we had a barge with watermelons. We had just a lot of farms, but it was not easy to form just the barge for 250,000 tons. But what is distribution of liabilities and rights in LLCs in the rural areas? In my opinion, what we should do, we need to create the agricultural service cooperatives, and we are working at that. And it is mentioned in the new law in terms of improving corporate governance to make it creditworthy, to make it able to get loans from credit unions as well. Why so? Because the credit unions have other priorities. Banks are looking through scoring models, a set of statistical indicators they have, and certain risks, while credit union looks at individual members, what they are doing, where they live, and they take into account much more parameters. The credit union will continue working in the region, so they can provide more powerful resources for service cooperatives that create added value in rural areas. And it would be, I would say, one of revolutionary technologies. Still, as of today, our activity goes ahead in the environment that we are having now. We have certain accomplishments, though if credit unions could cover bigger projects located in certain regions, it would push rural development in terms of creating added value. It's my opinion. Thank you, and it will be accomplished, let's hope. The amendment we proposed to the draft law, cooperatives should be able to take loans from credit unions, and we insist on that. Cooperatives are just unions of members, but until we understand that money is given to certain business, you will have to have just your pension or your salary as a collateral, or your own house. It takes to work with small businesses because business is the driving force of economy. So passing from supporting agro production, its efficiency, cooperatives are just created to raise efficiency, not to make the ministry happy. Cooperatives are made in order to raise productivity of labor. One classic used to say that to win, we need to raise the productivity of labor. It's the issue number one for us, to raise agrarian productivity of labor. And the credit union becomes a focal point for the community development. Mr. Bryan also said that in the first session, the money earned by the community stay in that very community. It's just the great advantage for the Irish. We earned that and we use it for our development. It's the community development. I was surprised when, without mentioning social impact, they do have such an impact, but I couldn't find a credit union that wouldn't work for the community development. They do have social impact, and it is important for investors. It matters to whom they give money. The community development, territorial development, the third project takes care of that. We cooperate with it. Mickey Muley will have a short presentation about that. One more question to you. What is your vision regarding the potential role of that hub, that is the credit union that concentrates financial resource, knowledge, advice, inspiration, regarding the regional programs related to regional motivation and incentivizing economical development of territories?
It's a great honor and pleasure to be here today. And I should start off by saying that I've been a member of a credit union since 1975, and they helped me save money for education. They provided me a loan for a car, a home, and I have a savings account there now that I will be using for education for my child in the future. It's, I'm told, one of the largest credit unions in the world, I think, the Navy Federal Credit Union. But they've been very helpful for me individually, and I'm hoping and I'm confident that, that they'll be able to help many Ukrainians in the future. And I'm very happy to be working now with a USAID funded program that is cooperating both with ARDS as well as with CAP. Although I wish it wasn't called Credit for Agricultural Producers. I wish it was called Credit for Communities, which is what we're working with. We're currently working with 50 communities in 7 oblasts of Ukraine, and these are communities that are going through consolidation. As you all have heard, Ukraine is going through a decentralization process. They're pushing responsibilities down to the communities so that the community leaders can be more responsive to their citizens. This also requires the citizens to play a more active role in their community. One area, this has been done in many parts of the world, where Ukraine is very unique, is simultaneously, concurrently with decentralization, communities are going through amalgamation. So villages, settlements, small towns are uniting, coming together as a community and trying to figure out how to work together to improve their public services, improve their economies, and improve their quality of life. And it's Dobre's role, this stands for decentralization to obtain better results and efficiency. Few people say the whole name, but it's Dobre. It's our role to work with leaders of the community and the citizens of the community to work together to create a vision as to what their community should look like in the future, and then figure out what kind of assets they have and how they can use those assets in the best way to achieve the results that they're looking for. Now, my role with my colleague Vitaly Yurkov in the back is to help those communities develop their economies. These are small, rural communities trying to figure out what can be done to create jobs, improve incomes. almost without exception, when we first engage the communities, they are looking at how can you help us get more taxes from small growers, small producers, people that are working out of their home. That's one component they're focused on. And the other component is can you help us establish an industrial park? So they're looking at two very ends of the spectrum of economic development without understanding all the things that need to be going on between those two to really do what they want to achieve, which is to create jobs, improve incomes, and improve the quality of life in their communities. So we help them understand that they really need to be looking at local businesses that are already working there, as opposed to looking at people bringing in new people. These are businesses that are committed to the community. They have family there. So there are a number of different economic tools that can be used to help those businesses. They need to be looking at how to help entrepreneurs create new businesses and introduce new services and expand their tax base. What can be done in the schools to help educate children and help them understand business and help them launch their new business. There's only so much all the AID types of projects can do. We create opportunities, we work with the citizens, we engage them, we give them new ideas, new tools, and it's really up to them to do the work and to really provide the fuel that will lead to change. This is the process we do. We work with them to understand what economic development is. We help them understand the assets they have in their community, so which tools are appropriate. And then we help them develop programs and implement projects using all of those tools. A recent survey indicated the small and medium-sized enterprises in our communities and other communities like them, the number, as you can see, the number 3 problem that they're trying to overcome is financing. How can they get financing to fund the businesses that they want to start or to fund businesses that want to grow? It's interesting that corruption is down on the list, and talking with people in our communities, isn't construction a barrier to operating your business? And they said, you have to figure out how to work around it in Ukraine. If you're not working around corruption, you're not going to be in business. And it's not our, we hope to work together to reduce the corruption, but small business leaders are working here. They're figuring out how to work around it, through it, but where they really need help is financing. They need financing so they can buy inputs. They need financing so that they can invest and buy equipment, and they need financing so they can operate their business. And banks are not filling that role. Cooperatives and credit unions, which also are a cooperative, they have the ability to do this. We're helping these communities become communities, helping them come together and realizing, like I mentioned, that we're settlements, villages. One of the communities that we're working with, before they became amalgamated, they were actually more than 25 different units, 25 different settlements, villages, small towns, and now they're together as one. Our friend from Ireland mentioned that the role that credit unions can play is actually empowering citizens, but it's also giving them a way to come together and realizing that by working together, they can do something that the community needs, that they need individually. Whether it be financing, certainly is one key area that needs to be addressed. And small banks, there are some lending programs available, but the demand for funds far exceeds the supply, especially in these small rural communities that are just coming together and trying to grow, trying to improve their quality of life. And that's where credit unions can play a critical role. And developing cooperatives so that they can use financing, but they need assistance in accessing inputs, accessing markets. And one individual growing berries, about all they can do is go out on the street or hope that the community develops an effective farmers market. But by coming together and working together and growing, they can access much greater markets, get a better price, and ensure that their products are being sold consistently. And they know that they're going to have an income, and if they get a loan, they can pay that loan back so that they can plant more next year, grow more, hire somebody, and increase their income. So there's a great deal. There's a huge role for cooperatives, for credit unions, especially in working in our communities. I mean, that decentralization and amalgamation of these new communities is very important to the future of Ukraine. But one of the most important ingredients to ensure that these communities have the fuel, have the resources that they need to grow is financing and working together, coming together to work. And there's a lot more that credit unions do in the U.S. and Canada and other countries than finance. It's certainly getting community citizens to work together, but they also influence community leaders in looking for the vision of where the community wants to go. They play a role in financial literacy so that students in schools are understanding personal finance as well as how to finance a business. And they play many other active roles. But maybe one of the most important ones, in addition to financing, is actually helping a community become a community. And by working together and becoming a community, so буде добре.
Дуже дякуємо, пане Міке.
Thanks a lot. I hope that it was rather idea than a response. I would like all of Ukraine to hear that. It's a unique moment and a unique link. What are we lacking in this equation? I apologize, I'm a mathematician. What are we lacking? Access to external funding for credit unions. During the first panel, it was mentioned where can we get resources. Though there is one more aspect. The investors are not just following and running with great money after credit unions, but the investors will come to attractive borrowers. In our cooperation scheme, I mean cooperation among technical assistance project, we have an investor. Marina, the question goes to you. Could you please tell what happened in late September?
In terms of the USAID support and how this can have an impact upon the access to the external financial sources. Yes, well, just to begin, if you did not know about ProCredit Ukraine, I need to tell you we work in this country since 2006. It was ProCredit Holland, and since 2008, we registered as a partnership. We are a financial company providing loans in hryvnias in order to reduce your financial risk, and the founder is a credit union. So you're close. We very interested to deal with you as partners. And I think that we have very good potential to develop credit unions in Ukraine. So I have to tell you that this holiday, I would like to congratulate you again on this occasion and would like to wish you very good creditors and borrowers. Polite and nice people. Well, since we were founded by a cooperative, we first of all have to ensure the funds to safeguard the monies of our members. So it was a rather big challenge to protect the money. We were granting loans secured by the credit portfolio, and unfortunately the evidence suggested it was not the best strategy. We wanted to seek better solutions, and on the 29th of September we had a very important and pleasant and nice event for us and for you. We signed an agreement with, it's a guarantee agreement in DSA with the USAID project for crediting agricultural producers, worth $1 million US, which is going to guarantee our credits from us to you. And the only thing is that this agreement is something we have to pay for, and we are working now in order to adjust our interest rate to the competitive level. We wanted to link it to your average interest rate, and well, that's. Thank you, Marina. Thank you, Marina. And I would like. I'm sorry. Yeah, since we are a financial company, a Ukrainian financial company, we unfortunately can grant one loan, no more than 4 million hryvnias at the time, but I think we are going to grow, and I think we are going to increase our net worth, and I think that it will grow. The term is no longer than 4 years, no shorter than 1 year. Marina, thank you. Really, thank you so much. I simply wanted you to look at it. The money that you need, frankly, this is the first very careful step, and in order to make it, we needed, they needed, and we needed a financial support from the USAID. This is something to stress, and I think you must become magnificent, highly skilled, and you will not need any support in the future, and you will work with this first bird. It's going to develop into something very big, into big flow of money. So the investors must be able to see what is going to happen with the funds, what is going to happen with his investments. And in order to finish this discussion, I'm sorry, we are coming to an end. It's not because you're least important. No, it's because you're first. It's because we simply wanted to tell you about our vision, about our work, about what we do in order to cooperate. And now we wanted to hear from the key people. We are having 2 credit unions. We invited everyone. And we are going to have a big gathering after 2 o'clock, after lunch. But Maria Sima, I suppose, is going to speak. And I would like to ask you, Maria, I learned much from you, and the whole country was learning from you. So I wanted to know your vision, what you would say. What would you say about the development of credit unions? Why your credit union is #1 in Ukraine? I think it's an example. To me, at least, it's a very good example. Can you tell us more about it? Thank you. Well, thank you. We probably the first credit union. In fact, the first credit union that, in fact, started in 1992. That was actually the first year of independence. So the biggest, first of all, we could not hope that someone would help us. So throughout the 25 years, we had virtually no support apart from the international partners. The international partners were teaching us, were helping us, and it's all due to their efforts we survived. And I would like to thank you for the effort and for this support. And I think that the credit union, any credit union, should rely on itself. We know that the government did little, and the Ukrainian state is not very strong yet. And we hardly can expect any help, any significant support from the government. The only wish is just to just give us more space. Do not impede and give us an opportunity to do something to sustain our businesses, to develop. We spend a lot of time to make sure that we comply with all regulations, all small rules, and of course it's a barrier to the development of credit unions. And as a credit union, how a credit union can help its members, and how a credit union can be involved in the social development of the local community. I think we go to the community and we want to learn about the community's issues. And having this intelligence, having this knowledge, we can design our services. I think that, for instance, the services we offer to the local farmers, cooperative members, we have particular credit products designed to accommodate the needs of co-op members. Credit unions have their commitments, responsibilities, responsible for the money that people invested, the members invested, and I think that we should, and we are responsible for that. Which means that a credit union have particular conditions and terms that we have to comply with. Throughout the last 25 years, we never had a problem with a borrower who had some collateral, like his house or anything else. We never took this collateral from our member. Today, there is a very particular feature of the Ukrainian credit unions. When people go to us, when people join us, they are capable to fix their problems very quickly. The banks can hardly help them with the problems, in particular agricultural producers. We watched the video. Our producers, they need money right now, right away. They cannot wait for months or two waiting so that a bank can analyze all documents and do all review. So this is what makes a big difference between credit unions and other financial institutions. Credit unions today can provide financial resources quickly and help people to avoid many financial problems. What about security? Well, if it's a million or million and a half, it's for any farmer or business. Of course, we would need some property collateralized because we are responsible. It's the money of our members. If we have a farmer with some equipment, a person doing his business for decades already, we would help him and provide him with a loan because we would be interested to have such a member, such a client, such a borrower, and we would be interested to help this person to repay and to run his business successfully, and we would advise what he or she can do with the money. Sometimes we have cases when people want rather big money, and we try to analyze the financial situation and financial standing of this person. We can offer a lower loan, a smaller loan, and we had cases like that. And we had cases when these people were coming back to thank us for adjusting the amount, for helping her to see his or her actual situation. And I need to tell you that the credit union have to monitor all loans. I think that we have some 1.2% of non-performing loans. It's 1.2% of the whole portfolio. And I think we all have this issue, and we never went to a court with a problem associated with any loans to farmers. We have no past due loan granted to a local agricultural producer. It's not because we have good farmers or good producers. I think it's because we try to run a proper financial analysis and proper monitoring for each client, for each agricultural producer. In 2008, this year was very serious for all of us, including our credit union and all farmers that borrowed then. They keep borrowing, and the businesses that could not repay at the time, they went insolvent. So if you ask me about the risk level, it's not so risky to lend to the local farmers. I would prefer farmers as our target group, because if they are doing this business for 10 years, for instance, the risk is associated with lending to such a member is quite lower. And we have about 20 various types of loan and about 20 deposit programs. We have a special attitude to the farmers. We do not wait for cheap money. We're quite capitalized and quite a capitalized institution, and we, I think, have enough capital to set funds to credit the local agricultural producers. Let me get you some amounts. The highest interest rate for an agricultural producer today within our credit union, 34% annual. It's the lowest interest rate. There are some conditions, special conditions, 18 per year. Sounds like a fairy tale, and it's full with no with no additions. No, it's yes, and I have to mention our colleagues, our credit unions. I am from Lviv Oblast myself. I have to tell you how we cooperate with the local authorities, the oblast authorities, the local authorities. The only oblast in this country that, in fact, is in cooperation with credit unions. That's the only administration. The Lviv administration is the only authority at the oblast level that is in very fruitful cooperation with credit unions. It's mainly about loans to run the energy efficiency programs. They supported the CU members. They involved banks as well. But I have to tell you that the credit unions granted loans to support this energy efficiency program, maybe 10 times as high as the banks. It's a very promising activity. It's a very interesting trend, I have to tell you, because what Will said about the local communities, when the communities begin this way, I think it's very productive approach. I think today in Lviv Oblast they went this way. We supported them. And today we already have other projects in order to compensate for some costs of agricultural producers. We reimburse, and they reimburse some interest. And I can tell you the state budget paid to our members about over 4 million hryvnias within this energy efficiency program. It's just for our credit union. There are other Nisia, Batkivshina, other credit unions that were involved in this energy efficiency program and other programs, and the budget compensated. Today, the local councils, the local radas joined the programs, the city councils, and if you look at the percentage they reimbursed
for energy efficiency projects, it is zero. If the regional and district budget joint compensation projects, it will be 0%. Presently in this region we have programs for compensation of interest rates for anti-terrorist operation participants. So we have a new project in this field. Our credit union issues relevant loans. It's our pleasure to do that. We are trying to help the people who defend us and our state. Thank you very much. The credit union is the center of development. I would like to draw the attention to the deficiencies. And today it was said that funds are allocated for funding agrarians, and the funds are underused. It is because the credit unions are not granted access to state programs. If they had an access, the funds would be used in a better manner. Time presses. Marina Yosipovna has said just great words, but I would like to ask you, Vladimir Vasilyevich, how you just could educate the farmer who has a great number of arable land, tract, berries planted. I agree with what was said by previous speakers. Please do not impede us in our activities. the examples made by our international partners. I would like to present the union I belong to. We work in central Ukraine. We were created within the NGO Soyuz Chernobyl. Our main objective is the social protection of Chernobyl disaster victims. But with the time being, Maria mentioned the 20 credit products. This year we celebrated our 20th anniversary, and during this time we mastered agrarian loans. We cooperated with international projects. From our first steps, we cooperated with one Canadian project. We're very thankful to them. They brought much from them, and this project is also our partner. I would like to discuss the changes in agrarian crediting loan. We have 70% of arable land in our region. We have grain producers, vegetable producers, livestock breeders in Cherkasy region. Presently, we credit actively, and I agree with what Maria has said. Crediting in the agrarian sector, in our opinion, is less risky than commercial projects or consumer credits. And presently, our credit portfolio by 1/3 has agrarian credits. Now we have people who start from half hectare up to 1-2 hectares. These are people who joined their land shares and planting mainly agrarian products for feeding their animals. Pigs, cows, rabbits, and people just want to buy a milking machine and would like to get a loan. How many cows do you have, we ask? We calculate, no. You need to have one more cow, or it's not reasonable for you to buy a milking machine. It will not be profitable for you. We have many examples, like Maria said, when farmers who previously used bank services, due to certain services, come to us, and since that time they have become our permanent borrowers. The previous year the borrower took 1 million, this year 2 million. Just from 2 million they raised to 5 million. We have 81 farmers presently, starting from 20 and up to 600 hectares. So they have. Although we have examples when farmers leave us. One farmer stayed us for 15 years. He started taking land in Poltava region. He has more than 1,000 hectares now and said goodbye to us. But those who stay with us, we try to take into account the circumstances, just postponement of interest rate payments and other advantages. We had such an example that a person was involved in other business. She had a textile factory, and they invested to invest in money. She couldn't pay for 3 years, and on the 4th year they paid back. Why? So he said, I just invested in agrarian business, had good yield and nice profits. I would like to thank the project for the opportunity to discuss risk assessment and other issues. Thanks for your agrarian analytics. We will discuss that as well after lunch at the meeting. I apologize for the mistake we made. We didn't expect that we will have such an interesting discussion. The next time we will have 3 times more time. Okay, please do not be upset. We are very thankful to our speakers, to all of those who are present. Many interesting things have been discussed. We are very grateful to all of you for coming, thanks to our power structures. It's not only cooperatives, it's life that requires all that. I invite all of you to our buffet, and after that we have the working group meeting.
Mind the time, and before the translator run away and you won't be able to understand what I'm saying, I just want to say again, thank you for everyone. Thank you for the credit unions, for the market, for the regulator, for the National Bank, for both panelists to join us here today. I hope you as hungry of success as we hungry for lunch. I'm starving, so I'm ready to move on. I hope that's a great opportunity to answer. We didn't have enough time today to ask questions, but all our panelists, I believe, will join us for lunch, so that's another opportunity to network, ask your questions in a more private setting. I was trying to make quotes to close this event. There's too much that was said that I can summarize in 2 words, so I will just say again, thank you. I hope you're hungry for success. And let's never forget that credit union always put people before the profits, and the people will make the change. We as USAID, as we heard today, and the 3 other projects are ready to support that process. Thank you.
Простите.